The Tennis Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Fantasy. Sign up with the promo code SGPN. Get a $1,000 bonus credit. We're also about to Edgeboost. Earn up to $700 per month to get rewards by using the Edgeboost card with the link to sign up, edgeboost.bet, with the promo code SGPN. And welcome, everybody, to the Tennis Gambling Podcast here on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. It is currently early Sunday morning, April 6th, roughly 2:15 a.m. Eastern Time. I'm Rosso, Scott Reichel, once again going solo for this pod. Time to get into the preview of the big 1000 event taking place over the next week, as you have Monte-Carlo. So we're going to be going through the Monte-Carlo Masters, going into the quarters as well. We have quarter odds, thankfully, so we're going to get into the quarters and the outright picks for the event. Then we'll get into the actual lock and dog picks for the first round at the end of the show. Apologies if you were waiting for potentially an episode in the morning, but I did decide to record overnight. It's kind of a weird schedule for Monte-Carlo because the event technically starts on Sunday, but you have 3 matches on Sunday, and then everybody else plays on Monday. So thought it was kind of weird, but decided to record before the 3 matches actually take place. To point out, though, we are missing a couple of matchups because qualifying is still going on. So there are less matches to choose from for the lock and dog picks than usual, but still, point, it should be a fun tournament. Looking forward to it. Usually does deliver. And hopefully, we end up cashing some outrights for the event. Anyway, before we get into any of the actual breakdown of the quarter odds, want to briefly touch upon what happened on Saturday for Houston. I know we have no recap for the lock and dog picks. We ended up giving out the lock and dog for the Marrakech and Bucharest finals earlier today, but we did not get to cover Houston because the matches had not taken place yet, and they finally got them completed despite the rain delay. So getting into briefly the recap of what happened in the semis in Houston, because of course we have no lock and dog picks to actually recap. Had a couple of interesting matches. You saw Brooksby outlast Paul in a final set breaker, and you saw Tiafoe beat Nakashima 6-4, 7-6. The Paul one was pretty rough in terms of a choke job, as Paul did have the first set, I'd say, under control for the most part. Brooksby did end up having the break lead early. Paul ended up breaking back while Brooksby was serving for the first set. Then Paul had 15-40 in the Brooksby service game, and he did not break. And then eventually you saw him lead in the first set breaker 5-2, then lost the final 5 points. So Paul fell apart there at the end of the first set. Won the second set, despite the rain delay that took place midway through. Then you had an absolute break fest in the third set, as you ended up seeing breaks in 3 of the first 4 service games. But Brooksby found himself up 4-1 with 1 break. Paul broke back. Then you ended up seeing a pretty stressful ending, as Paul did have the break lead at the 6-5 mark. So he ended up having the opportunity to serve out the match, choked it. Then he had a match point in the tie break at 6-5, blew that 2, and Brooksby eventually did win the match and the breaker, as he got the job done there in a very, very fun and very intense match. Tough to fully tell you how long the match was, because if you factor in the rain delay, it took 6 hours, but of course they were on the court for less than that. I think it took about, if I had to guess, I'd say about 3 hours, give or take, of time on court. But Paul had a good opportunity to get the job done. He did not, and Brooksby got revenge after losing to him in a 3-set marathon earlier this year. They faced off, if I remember, in one of Brooksby's first matches back from suspension, faced off in Dallas, and Paul did beat him in 3 sets. So Brooksby got revenge there, as he ended up advancing to the final here in Houston, taking place on Sunday. Now, I did not post the actual thoughts on Houston semifinal matches for the podcast. I did bet something personal. I tweeted it out. I ended up having Brooksby to win in 3 sets, actually, with a boost at plus 780. So thank you to Brooksby for helping me cash that out for about $800, give or take. But either way, thank you to Brooksby for helping me win that long shot. Definitely a stress-filled match. I'm not surprised that Paul choked it. I'm more disappointed, if anything. I feel like most Paul losses are heartbreakers, and Brooksby looked pretty good in the rounds before that. Thought it'd be a marathon, and it was, and Brooksby found a way to, I'd say, to survive. That's the way I would describe it. Definitely not the prettiest match. The courts in Houston prevented from being that pretty, but still, nice job by Brooksby for outlasting Paul in a marathon to advance to the final in the event. As for the other matchup, you had Tiafoe beating Nakashima. I would say it was pretty straightforward. You saw a bit of a circus there at the end, as Tiafoe was up a break on 2 separate occasions in the second set, as he ended up bleeding 4-3. And he ended up leading 6-5, had a chance to serve it out, got broken to love, then eventually did win in the tiebreak. Tiafoe, though, is going for his second title here in Houston. Thought he looked pretty good. Nakashima's not a great clay player, and I thought that Tiafoe outplayed him pretty heavily. The issue was that Nakashima was able to convert his breakpoint chances, I'd say, more often, as you ended up seeing, or I should say on a higher percentage base, because Tiafoe only faced 5 breakpoints, got broken 4 times. Nakashima faced 10 breakpoints, got broken 5 times. So the point is, Tiafoe didn't really do a great job of fighting off breakpoint chances, but he did win more on the first serve and the second serve. In fact, he won 22% more on the second serve points, as he eventually did win in straight sets. So to briefly get into the actual outright update for what we have for the previous week, to mention those. So I mentioned this in the last episode, but for the outrights that we have left in the actual events here that have not finished yet on Sunday, we have Baez in the title match in Bucharest at plus 500. We have Tiafoe in the title match at Houston at plus 550, and we automatically win in Marrakech. We have Griekspoor at 6-1, and we have Darderi at 12-1. So we still can sweep all of the 3 events we had from the previous week. We automatically got one in Marrakech, so we'll see what happens in the other 2. But there is a chance if Baez and if Tiafoe also win, we win all 3 events on the outright. So once again, would be nice. We'll see what happens. Of course, we would have automatically won if Paul ended up winning, because we had Paul and Tiafoe. But it is what it is. We have a horse in each race. We have 2 actually in one race. So we'll see what happens, and hopefully we have a nice Sunday for the outrights. Now, anyway, time to get into the actual breakdown of the quarters in Monte Carlo. Forward to that, though, I want to briefly remind you once again that you can't just support the show, but like and subscribing on YouTube. Reminder, you can also leave a rating and a review on Spotify or Apple. So if you listen to the podcast audio only on Spotify or Apple, that's fine too. Just don't forget to leave a rating and a review. Plus, a reminder, on YouTube, we do it in live stream format. You can watch it in video format after, or you can watch the simulcast version on the SGPN Twitter account, so you can watch it in a variety of ways. But no matter how you actually do watch it, you can help the show grow by leaving some feedback or some support. Don't forget to, once again, help the show grow by, once again, leaving a like and subscribe on the channel. And don't forget to rate and review the podcast on Spotify or Apple. Plus, a reminder, check out the actual merch store on the SGPN website. We've autographed 10 Scan Podcast merch. We have sweatshirts, t-shirts, and mugs. High quality, different colors, and very affordable. Recommend getting yourself something there. And a reminder that we do have a great contest going on with the SGPN network, because we do have a great deal for the Masters, because you do want to enter a contest. Augusta's right around the corner, and SGPN's back with Splash Sports for a big contest up to $30K in prizes and only $25 entry fee. Get in today at splashsports.com/SGPN. That's splashsports.com/SGPN. Tune into the Golf Gambling Podcast, the Steffi Small Show, and the Bottle Line Bombs for all of your Masters picks. Anyway, starting off with the actual reminder of who had won in the past in Monte Carlo. Recent winners, you can kind of rename the event the Tsitsipas Invitational, because he's randomly really good here every year. Tsitsipas beat Ruud in the final last year. So Rublev beat Rune the year prior. Tsitsipas ended up beating Fekina the year before that, and Tsitsipas beat Rublev the year before that. So the point is, the common theme here is that Tsitsipas, since COVID, has won 3 of the last 4 Monte Carlos, and Rublev ended up making the final in 2 of those 4, including a title win a couple years ago. So Tsitsipas, for some reason, even when he was struggling, always found a way to perform well here. Last year, he was a mess, ended up beating Zverev in his title run, ended up beating, as I said before, Ruud in the final. Tsitsipas, though, it's the topspin maybe, or maybe the environment of the climate, but Tsitsipas does perform well here all the time, so it is worth mentioning that even though he was in really bad form last year, he found a way, and his form has definitely improved over the last couple months. We'll see if he can win it again for the 4th time in 5 years. Anyway, getting into the actual quarter odds here for the event, starting off with the first quarter. Coincidentally, this is the Tsitsipas quarter as well. So for the Tsitsipas quarter, you're looking at Zverev being the favorite at plus 300. You have Tsitsipas, though, as co-favorites at plus 300 as well. You have Rune at 450. You have Berrettini at 550. Musetti at 9-1. You have Leheshka at 10-1. You have Korda at 10-1. Borges at 22-1. Martinez at 25-1. To be honest, I could name more guys. I'm not going to. I don't see any serious Cinderellas making it into the semis, so I'll stay with the somewhat short list of the favorites here for each quarter. Now, for this quarter, I'm not going to take Zverev. I think his draws is not that great, honestly. Has a bye in the first round, then probably Berrettini in the second round. Definitely not the matchup you want to see in the second round of an event. Then you have potentially Musetti in the third round, who beat Zverev, a reminder, on clay in the Olympics, so keep that in mind. But he also is in the same section as Leheshka and Korda, so a really tough section there with Leheshka, Korda, and Musetti, but I think that's a pretty tough draw for Zverev to beat Berrettini, then maybe Musetti in there in the third round, then either Tsitsipas or Rune. Not the draw you want to see as the co-favorite of the quarter. I'll pass on Zverev, not to mention the bad form he's been in since making the Aussie Open final. So I am going to go with a Tsitsipas at 3-1. I kind of have to. I'm priced into it. I understand that once again it involves backing Tsitsipas, who's been very unreliable over the years, but he was good to us, ended up winning us a couple of locks in Dubai, and he's been playing pretty good tennis. But it's mostly how comfortable he is on the courts here. He ended up beating Zverev in the tournament last year. He's won this event multiple times. I think plus 300 with his draw is pretty favorable. Once again, same price as Zverev. Unlike Zverev, he has either Thompson or Perricard in the second round, then maybe Rune in the third round, which could be tricky. But the point is, I think that his draw is easier than Zverev's, and it's the same price. Give me Tsitsipas at plus 300 in the first choice. For the second one, though, I am going to go with Rune at 450 in case Tsitsipas does kind of self-destruct again. I think that the bottom half of that quarter is much more manageable than the top half. Instead of worrying about Zverev and Berrettini and Leheshka and Korda and Musetti, I'll skip them. I'll save them once again for a potential matchup there in the quarterfinals where I'll let them just beat each other to death. But I'm going to go with the other half instead. I like Rune, and I think that Tsitsipas is once again the main way to go about this quarter. Borges has never played here before. Can be a bit tricky for him. I think he's fine on clay, but Rune is better. Made a final here a couple years ago, as I said before, so he's been successful here in the past. You're looking at, once again, Sonego and Martinez, who are not really that intimidating, in my opinion, on the courts here. So I think that Tsitsipas and Rune have a better draw. Yes, one of them will lose in the third round, but I think that it's going to set up a good opportunity for one of these guys to make it into the quarters, as I think Rune should face off against Tsitsipas there in the third round. So once again, give me Tsitsipas and Rune as my two choices here for the first quarter. Before we get into the remaining quarters, once again, they're brought to you by our sponsor, Edge Boost, because they have the Premium debit card, and you can also use their card to avoid being hassled by having your card denied at the Sportsbook DFS site. You can also get cash rewards, $70 per month cash rewards by using the Edge Boost card. Also, best part of credit checks, fully free. Sign up today, though, for your new card at edgeboost.bet with the promo code SGPN. We're also brought to you by MyBookie, because MyBookie.ag is the place bet in every sport. They also have crowned college basketball games for the minor college basketball tournaments. You can also bet on props in every game. They have customers, a ton of locations, because you can use their, once again, overall book from a ton of different spots, even different countries. Easy to deposit, go ahead and pay out to crypto. You can also head to MyBookie.ag with the promo code SGPN for 100% deposit match up to 1K. It's MyBookie.ag, promo code SGPN. Welcome back, everyone, to the Tennis Game Podcast. Finished getting into the first quarter of Monte Carlo. Time to move on into the second quarter. Quickly seeing the comment section, I see Uneducated's back, and so is Josh. So nice to see you guys. Hopefully you are enjoying the show. Moving on, though, to the second quarter. This is going to be a pretty interesting one because this is the Djokovic quarter. Now, Joker, we know, lost in the final in Miami to Mensik. He was one match away from winning his 100th ATP title, but he's got to start from scratch again as he is going to the clay slate, trying to win Monte Carlo again. Now, Djokovic is the favorite at plus 125. Medvedev is plus 450. De Minaur's at 650. You have Dimitrov at 8-1. You have Makic at 9-1. Khachanov at 12-1, who actually plays Medvedev in the first round. You have Baez at 14-1, who's playing in the final in Bucharest on Sunday. We'll see how fatigue plays a factor. You have Moore at 18-1, and you have Wawrinka at 28-1. Now, Joker, I understand why he's the favorite. First of all, based on reputation. Second of all, he has won this event before. However, his success is pretty, I'd say, scarce over the last decade or so. So to mention the recent performances here in Monte Carlo, did make the semis last year, did lose to Ruud, but that was the deepest run he's made in a long time. So to actually go through the Djokovic history in Monte Carlo, once again, not as good as you might think. In fact, he's actually lost quite early in this event over the last couple of years, with the exception of the semifinal appearance last year against Ruud. So, once again, lost to Ruud in the semis last year. Before that, though, he had not made the semis since 2015. So he made the semis one time, basically 10 years here. So I cannot take him to win this quarter. Not to mention the fact he's not the guy he used to be, and I don't see any value at plus 125. But when you've made the semis one time in the last 10 years of the event, I'm not going to take you to make the semis at plus 125. I don't see any value on that. It's been a kind of a tournament that has been kind of a house of horrors for Joker over the last couple of years. He's made the quarters a couple times, but not making the semis that often, I think, scares me off of taking him at plus 125. I'll pass and go with other, in my opinion, better priced options. Now, Medvedev, I can't take either. Has a bad match in the first round with Khachanov, who actually beat him in Monte-Carlo last year. So a bit of a bad draw there for Medvedev. Not to mention the fact he's pretty bad on clay, and he also has been a mess lately in terms of stringing together multiple wins. It seems like he's in his own head, and I don't want to trust him on the courts here. He'll complain about the courts all the time. He'll yell at the chair umpire. It's going to be a circus with him playing, but I'll pass at 450. Not good enough on clay on a regular basis to once again get the job done for me. Yes, I know he won a Clay 1000 event a couple years ago, but I don't think that's going to apply here. Give me a fade of Medvedev here at plus 450, especially at this price. That opens up an opportunity for de Minaur potentially, and I am going to go with him at 650. Think his draw is manageable. Now, I think Joker's draw is not bad. He would have Dimitrov in the third round, but it's mostly fading him just based on his lack of success as a whole in Monte Carlo. Think de Minaur's draw is fine, though. He has Makic or Baez in the second round. Not the easiest, but Baez, I think, might be fatigued. We'll see if Makic looks sharp. Who knows? I know he was playing some clay UTS events, so he was able to get some clay reps in the alternative tennis league. Either way, though, de Minaur has been pretty good on clay. I think he's underrated on clay. Made the quarters, I think, in the French Open last year. Point is, I think that he's got a decent draw. I know that Makic or Baez could be difficult, but you get the half that Medvedev's in, which I think opens some opportunities. So give me de Minaur at 650. But I am going to go with Makic at 9-1. I think it's a bad spot for Baez, who has not been good at Monte Carlo as well over the years. So it's kind of a clay tournament that he actually surprisingly does not do well in. But Makic is the favorite in that first round match, so I think that Makic might get the job done, and I do think that Makic and de Minaur have a great chance of beating Medvedev or Khachanov in the third round, which could open up a potential matchup against Djokovic. We'll see. But I think for the value, I'll go with Makic. Wanted to make a case for Baez, but him playing on Sunday and then having the immediate turnaround for Monte Carlo in this event is really not the schedule you want to see. So I'll go with Makic. I will point out, though, that if you are scared of Djokovic, Makic actually beat Djokovic on clay in the past. So I do like the fact that Makic has given Djokovic some problems in the past, not in the Australian Open this past year, but he has beaten him on clay. So I do think that Makic has the game to potentially pull off an upset if it comes to that, but I like the 9-1 price. I'll take those two as my quarter plays. Moving on to the third quarter in Monte Carlo. This is going to be the you could argue most open quarter because you have the favorite at around 240. You have Zverev and Tsitsipas at 3-1 apiece, but the point is, you know what I'm trying to say. You're looking at what could be a very open draw if Ruud potentially self-destructs because he is known for underachieving, especially over the last year or so. But Ruud is the favorite in his quarter at plus 240. Draper's at 3-1. You have Humbert at 650. You have Fekina at 750. Shelton at 8-1. You have Shapo at 14-1. Tiafoe at 14-1, who is playing on Sunday as well in Houston. Kekmanovic at 14-1, and Nakashima once again, who lost in the semis to Tiafoe in Houston at 14-1 as well. If you want to go a bit further, you have Echeverry at 20-1, Papiron at 28-1. You kind of get the point. So for this quarter, the real question is, am I going to take Ruud or am I going to pass on him because I don't really trust him? I think I am going to take Ruud, but I'm not happy about it. I think his draw is actually pretty good. Look at the actual draw here for Ruud. He has a bye, the Nakashima or a Gut. Not going to scare me in 2025. Then you're looking at either Tiafoe, Kekmanovic, Humbert, or Papiron. Humbert, I'll put it this way. I initially thought about taking him as an outright as well, but he's been really bad lately. And even in the UTS, he was also a member of that clay, basically practice event for the clay slate. Was not very good. So I don't really like the form that Humbert is in. He's lost 4 straight matches. I know Papiron beat him on clay in the French Open years ago. But I do think that Ruud has a decent path if you are not afraid of Humbert. I think plus 240 is a good price. I think that he's in a good spot for the actual draw. I'll take him in the spot. Once again, a reminder that Ruud did make the final here last year. So I will point out Ruud's been successful in the past. Give me Ruud at plus 240 for the quarter. But I'll take somebody else as well. I am going to go with Draper, who I know is not exactly the most comfortable on clay. I think he's fine on clay. I think he's better on other surfaces, but I think 3-1 is a decent price for this draw as well. He has a bye that neither Giron or Shapo, who have not been great on clay lately. You're looking at Shelton as his main opponent in his immediate section, which is not that intimidating. Could be Fekina. Fekina's a decent favorite, actually, against Shelton, so you might end up getting a Shelton to get upset in the first round, at least based on ranking, even though Fekina's favored. The point is, though, if Shelton is the main ranked guy, that's his opposition, and he's a dog in the first round, you're looking at a decent path for Draper. You might get Draper against Ruud in the quarters, and we'll go from there. But I think 3-1 is a good price, but I'm really not going to go that deep into the actual prices. Didn't like anybody else. I thought about making a case for Humbert. Didn't like his form. Fekina, I don't trust enough to win this many matches in a row. Shelton's bad on clay. And that's basically it. So once again, give me the chalk here. Give me Ruud at 240 and give me Draper at 3-1. Moving on to the final quarter in Monte Carlo. This is the Alcaraz quarter. The question is Alcaraz a price we can actually take? Hell no. He's minus 325. We are not going to take him. I know Alcaraz is a very good clay player. He's won the French Open before. I get it. Point is, though, with this price, I cannot take him to win the quarter, especially based on current form. Since Sinner got suspended, he's been very, very underwhelming. Yes, I know most of those were on hard court, but still, I don't like the current form that Alcaraz is in, and because of that, I'm not going to take him at this price. So, instead of taking Alcaraz at minus 325, we're going to go with some alternatives. Now, for the second favorite, you have Rublev at 650. Who I said before has made the final in 2 of the last 4 iterations, and he did win the title a couple years ago at, once again, 650. You have Cerundolo at 10-1, Felix at 14-1, Fees at 16-1, Greek Sport 18-1, who's playing on Sunday in the final in Marrakech. You have Monfils at 20-1, Arnaldi at 28-1, and you have Caboli, who's also playing on Sunday in the final in Bucharest at 33-1. So the question is for Alcaraz, first of all, besides the price, how easy is his draw? The answer is not easy at all. He actually has a bye in the first round. Then he has probably Cerundolo, who's minus 1,000 against Fognini, who has not retired yet for some reason. But Cerundolo is a massive favorite. You might see a rematch of what we saw when they faced off a couple of weeks ago. And that was actually a close straight set win for Alcaraz on hard court. But Cerundolo, we know is a very good clay player, can be dangerous. And I do think that he can make it interesting for Alcaraz. Then you have maybe Felix in the third round. Could be Arnaldi. We'll see. But the point is, you're looking at Alcaraz, who has to face off against Cerundolo, and then Felix, and then Rublev or Fees or Griekspoor. Not a great draw for a minus 325 favorite. I understand that he is the best player here, at least on paper. But with that draw, it would not shock me if Cerundolo or Felix gave Alcaraz a scare and maybe even pulled off the upset. Once again, Alcaraz has not been in great form. And I think that with the draw that he has, it's really not that appealing. Now, because of the actual draw, though, I have to skip Cerundolo and Felix. I don't want to be in Alcaraz's quarter. But if either of them pulled off the upset, I would not be as shocked as other people. And I think that's going to open up some opportunities for the other half of the draw. So since I'm skipping out on Felix, on Cerundolo, and on Alcaraz, based on that actual half of the quarter, I'm going to go with Rublev at 650. Yes, I know he's not been great lately, but I do think, he won a title earlier this year. But you get my point, though. I do think that Rublev has been in a pretty up and down state so far this year after winning that title, but I like his overall draw. Has Monfils a qualifier in the second round? Might be tough, but I think Rublev should be a decent favorite in that match. Then you would have either Fees or Griekspoor most likely. Caboli, I think, will be tired after the final in Bucharest. We'll see. The point is, though, I don't mind the draw at plus 650. I think it's a pretty good price, and I am going to actually pair him with Fees at 16-1. Now, Griekspoor does play on Sunday. They've had a couple of wars in the past with Griekspoor and Fees, which Griekspoor's actually won. I believe each of the 2 meetings ended up going to a deciding set, but I do think Griekspoor might be tired after traveling from Marrakech, and Fees, we know, can be good on clay. He looked pretty good in his last couple of events. So I think that Fees, once again, can make some noise here. He has won a couple of clay titles in his career. He won a 500 title in Hamburg, beating Zverev in the final. Think that he can put together a good performance if Alcaraz gets upset. Made a good run, though, in Miami. Ended up beating Zverev, ended up beating Tiafoe. He ended up losing to Mensik, who won the event in his 4th match there. So you get my point, though. I think Fees is in pretty good form. We're waiting for him to find his groove, and I do think it's a good price for a top 15 guy ranked in the world. Give me Fees at 16-1. I know the first round match is tricky against Griekspoor, hoping the fatigue will help Fees in that actual match, but I like the price 16-1, so I'll go with them once again as my 2 picks for the 4th quarter. So once again, the quarter plays here for Monte Carlo. The first quarter is going to be on Tsitsipas plus 300 with Rune at 450. Second quarter, I'm going to go with Dimonauer at 650 and Makic at 9-1. Third quarter, I'm going to go with I'm going to go with Ruud at 240, and I'm going to go with Draper at 3-1. Fourth quarter, I'll go with some long shots. Give me Rublev at 650, and give me Fees at 16-1. Now it's time for the Arts to actually win the event. So reading off the odds that I have in front of me, shop around, though, I did see Alcaraz at 2-1 in some spots, but for the sake of DraftKings, I do see it being available at around plus 110. So, reading off the odds according to DraftKings, Alcaraz actually got bumped up to plus 150. So, it's plus 150 on Alcaraz now. It's 550 on Djokovic. It is 10-1 on Tsitsipas, 12-1 on Zverev. You have 14-1 on Ruud, 22-1 on Rublev. You have 22-1 on Draper, 22-1 on Rune. You have 28-1 on Medvedev, 35-1 on Dimonauer. You have 35-1 on Berrettini, 35-1 on Cerundolo, 40-1 on Musetti, 50-1 on Felix, and you kind of get the point. So if you want to go for some other guys, Fees I mentioned as a quarter winner, he's at 50-1. Dimitrov's at 60-1. You get my point. I'm not going to take any of these guys in the long shot range. I do think that one of the favorites will win the event. I don't see much value. Now, I did find a great price available on a different book for one guy I'm going to mention in a second. But for the sake of long shots, I found a guy at 50-1, but it was a rogue line that I'm going to capitalize on. I was not interested in any of the long shots mentioned in the long shot section on DraftKings. And for the actual favorite, the shortest price guy I'm going to go with, I'm skipping Alcaraz at 150. Don't like the form. Skipping out on Djokovic, who has not been good in Monte-Carlo for years, as he has made one semi in the last 10 years of the event. Not going to bother. I'll pass on him at 550. But that does open the door for Tsitsipas, and I am going to go with him. Did find a good price at 14-1. Tough to go against him. I know, once again, he can lose early in any event. I get it. But he's won this event in 3 of the last 4 years. Tough to turn down a 14-1 draw with his quarter. I think it's a great price, and I think that it's, once again, a great tournament for him to thrive in again. Give me Tsitsipas at 14-1. Sessions, I am pretty low on Zverev based on form and based on draw. So it could open up a little bit to make it easier for him. Give me Tsitsipas, though, at 14-1. But I'm going to go with a guy in his actual quarter, so I'm going to double fade Zverev here. I am going to go with Rune at 26-1. Trying to find guys that I thought had some value for this actual tournament. And if I am going to skip out on Alcaraz and Djokovic, that does open the door to what could be some chaos. I'm going to try to capitalize on what could be a very open draw compared to what people think. Rune, though, said before, did make the final here a couple years ago. I think that he was in great form over the last couple of events on hard court. Made the final in Indian Wells before losing to Draper. Point is, though, I like how he's actually played. Yes, durability can be a bit of an issue at times for him. I get it. But the point is, he did make the final here a couple of years ago, 2 years ago to be exact. I think that he can look sharp here. Made the quarters as well last year, I think. So he has been successful in the past on these courts in Monte-Carlo. Made the quarters last year. Made the final 2 years ago. I think 26-1 is a good price. I think he can maybe pull off an upset or two along the way. Most of the price, though, once again, DraftKings had him listed at around... where was he listed at? 22-1. I found a 26-1. I'll take a shot there for a guy that made a final here in the past. I'll take him at 26-1. For my last one, this is definitely a rogue one. I see somebody asking what price what book I found the 14-1 on for Tsitsipas. I'm trying to actually remember what book I found that on. That was FanDuel, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Let me quickly check. I forgot to actually write that down, but I found a 14-1. It was definitely available. Let me just quickly see if it was on FanDuel, if I'm not mistaken. Where is it? It was not FanDuel. It was not DraftKings. I don't think it was BetRivers either. Where the hell did I find 14-1? I definitely saw 14-1. I did not make that up. Sorry, let me just... I should have written it down. So that's my bad there. 12-1 on BetMGM. No. I think it might have been BetRivers, actually. Let me just quickly check. Yeah, so BetRivers is 14-1. So BetRivers did have a couple of crazy prices that I'm going to try to capitalize on, but the 14-1 was on BetRivers. So there you go for Tsitsipas, but 26-1 I think is a good deal for Rune. Moving on to the crazy price that I found. Said before, Rublev is a former champion, won the event 2 years ago, did make the final a couple years ago too. But FanDuel does have him listed around where DraftKings does. So FanDuel has FanDuel has Rublev listed at around 23-1. DraftKings is 22-1. BetRivers has the insane price of 50-1. 50. If you want to double his outright price on a different book and go rogue, sure. Just take my money. I'll take my chances. But I think that, once again, he's a player who's won here before. I think he's a solid clay player. Did beat Alcaraz on clay last year. I believe that was in Madrid. 50-1 is nuts when every other book has around 22, 23-1. So BetRivers definitely went rogue on a couple of outright actual prices. I'll capitalize on those. But 50-1 on principle is a nutty price. I'll take it before the line moves. So once again, the 3 outright picks here for the Monte-Carlo event is going to be on Tsitsipas at 14-1, Rune at 26-1, and I am going to go with Rublev at 50-1 and that is definitely a rogue price I'd grab now on Bet Rivers before the line moves. Let's grab it up, though, for the actual preview of Monte Carlo. Now it's time for the lock and lock pick for the first round. According to that, though, I want to remind once again that we are brought to you by our sponsor, Fantasy, because they have a great pick'em opportunity to make money. You could use their pick'em to play any sport, win 200 times your money. You could also mix and match, whether it involves tennis, whether it involves college basketball, NBA, even MMA. If you want to go for baseball, they have a bunch of different sports available for you. Esports, mix and match, try to win 100 times your money. You can also sign up for your new account with the promo code SGPN to claim a special first time deposit offer up to 1K bonus cash on fantasy promo code SGPN. We're also brought to you by Rhythm, because Rhythm is the home for picks and props. They also are now live for Major League Baseball. They also have models for NBA and golf. You can also build your own model, which is very easy and simple to do. You can also sign up today for a 7-day free trial by using the link sportscampus.com's Rhythm, sportscampus.com's RATHMM. Welcome back, everyone, to the Tennis Game Podcast. Finish breaking down the outrights for Monte Carlo. Time to move on into the lock and dog picks. A reminder, I could have waited it out, actually, until after qualifying finished on Sunday, gotten some qualifiers in the main draw, and maybe found more matches to choose from. Decided not to do it, so I am going to go with a couple of matches in a parlay for the lock. I'm going to go to the Rune match against Borges, and I'm going to go to the Chapo match against Giron. Give me the money line parlay. Give me Rune money line parlay with the Chapo money line at minus 102. Couple reasons why I'm going to go with the parlay here. First reason for the Rune match. Rune's been good here in the past. Said it before. He made the quarters here last year and the final here a couple years ago. Think he's a good clay player. Borges is fine on clay. However, he's never played a Monte Carlo before. Tough to adjust to a new clay overall tournament. I think that Borges is going to struggle. Didn't look that great in the last event there in Marrakech. Did lose to Baena as he failed a bunch of breakpoint chances. But I see Borges struggling against a good clay player on these courts. Give me Rune in this matchup. He's also won all 4 career sets against Borges, both on hard court, but still, both matches, I mean. So Rune's been good in the head-to-head. He's been good in Monte Carlo, and Borges never played here. I think it's a good parlay piece for the money line. Joining that, though, with Giron in a fade here. He's been really bad on clay. He's lost 8 of the last 9 clay matches. Chapo's fine on clay. Not a great clay player, but he has won 3 of his last 5, so he's the better clay player between them. Plus, they faced off in a hard court match about a month and a half ago, as you saw Chapo beat him in 3 sets on February 27th. Point is, though, Chapo was the better player on hard court about a month ago or so. He's better on clay. Giron is 1-8 in his last 9 clay matches. I see a good matchup for Chapo. Might go to 3 sets maybe, but I'm going to fade the American here on clay. Give me Chapo to get the job done. It could be a fun competitive match, but I think he'll be able to get the job done in this one. So once again, the lock's going to be on a 2-pick parlay. Give me Rune money line parlayed with Chapo money line at minus 102. I believe that was on DraftKings. Moving on to the dog. I'm going to go to a matchup between Sonego and Martinez. I'm going to be fully honest here. Martinez might drop out of the event, but I do see lines listed. I'll gamble. It is a decent amount of prize money when you factor in the 1,000 event, so maybe Martinez tries to tough it out and tries to play. But I'm going to go with Sonego to win the first set and the match at even money. That was on DraftKings as well. Martinez was playing okay tennis, then got injured against DeZumer and dropped out in his match about 2 days ago in the quarters of that event as he had a hamstring-quad injury. So point is, you're looking at Martinez, who is banged up. He might play. We'll see. If not, then apologies for wasting your time, but we get the bet voided anyway. But Sonego, I think, is in a good spot to win this match. Martinez, with the leg issues, can struggle to actually cover the court. He might try to tough it out once again for the prize money in the 1,000 event, but I think Sonego is in a good spot. He's been okay here in the past. Sonego is a 9-7 straight up in Monte Carlo, so he's played a lot of tennis here over the years. I think that he's in a good spot to once again capitalize on this draw against a compromised opponent injury-wise. And Martinez has not been good here over the years. He's lost 4 of his last 5 matches in Monte Carlo, but I'm mostly going to fade the injured guy. I think Sonego can win in straight sets, but I know Sonego can also be a head case where he ends up punting a set. Point is, though, I think Martinez, based on his injury, might not play, so keep it in mind. But I'll take the healthy player who ended up getting a pretty decent record in his career in Monte Carlo, being 9-7, and Martinez is 1-4 in his last 5 matches at this event. I'll fade the injured player, though, with the hamstring-quad injury. Give me Sonego to win the first set and the match at even money. So once again, the plays here for the lock and dog actual picks. I'm going to go with the lock being a 2-pick parlay. Give me Rune money line with Chapo money line at minus 102. For the dog, I'm going to go with Sonego to win the first set and the match at plus 100. That's going to wrap it up for this episode. Reminder, we're back once again, since it is a 1,000 event, for the second round of Monte-Carlo. So back once again in a couple of days. Till then, find me on Twitter at Reichel Radio, find me on the NBA show, the MLB show, and find me on the, of course, network and a bunch of other shows. But until next time, good luck to all of you and all of your bets. Bye, everyone.